G'day guys, it's Jake here. Nothing in this video is financial advice. Please do your own research when it comes to investing. Please be sure to check out my links below, including exchanges I use and social media content that I post. All right, let's go. All right, guys. So firstly, just check in on the Fear and Greed Index. We'll also cover Google Trends and some charts of alt BTC pairs. We'll go through a few of them and we'll sum up where the market is heading, look at Bitcoin price and ETH price as well. So that is the video. Okay, so first up we have the Fear and Greed Index at 31. So quite, low to medium. It's not extremely fearful. So it's not extremely fear like it was if you go to this timeline here. And this goes back, if you want to go back to a year, this goes back exactly a year ago, 16th of August, 15th, 13th, or 15th, as it goes back as far as. And now going, July, we had this 26 reading, 25, which is extreme fear. And down here, we got it to 17 at the lows, which is the other last week, that big drop. A big day, that really fearful day, the Nikkei and the other stock markets, Ethereum down 25% in a day and all that. So it got down to 17. And now we're at 30, was it 31? 31, yep. So 31, it's hovering in the 30s. It's not, where I want to see it. I want to see it below 20 durably and potentially at 10 and below will be really, really good. So if you go back at max, okay, times that we're below 20, we're hovering around the 20s here in the late stages, the biggest, the biggest drops really, and the bottoms for Bitcoin and some of the other crypto tokens, but mainly Bitcoin, okay, and ETH as well, bottomed around this late 2022 period, going into 2023, and that was early 20s, so it wasn't really durably below 20. We did get in the sort of mid-year, May to June, we had a bit of a dip there as well, and that was below 10. Okay, as you can see there, 6. And we did get a higher low on the Fear and Greed, and we did get a low in price, but a higher low in Fear and Greed, which is a bit of a divergence. So one goes higher and the price goes lower, which is quite interesting. And the other periods you had here around the 10s were just in 2021, that big drop off in the middle of that massive bull run there. And then you had, go back even further, the pandemic drop, which is fair enough. That was pretty panicky down below the 10s. And then, you can go back even further. So that just illustrates, we've got some room to the downside. And if you want to see it below 20s for, like this nice bit of time, not just wick down to it like it did here and got to 17. I'll show you a bit closer. It got to 17 and then it went straight back up. And now it got to 20 here, but didn't durably stay below 20, which is what you want to see, okay? Like it stays durably above 70 for quite a bit of time, which is very, very greedy. And then, it's not as fearful as you think it is, as I see more fear coming ahead as recession kicks in at the end of this year. So be ready. Bitcoin, there we got the surge turns over time. And you can see there as we're coming down, all right, so back down to these levels at 17, 23 really. And then you got, around here, like late 2023. So we're going down there, the 5 years. And so not much happening because there's no retail involved at all in this rally. So that's that. And I get to the charts now. So the price of Bitcoin we'll go over quickly. So we are in this channel, of course, as I mentioned in previous videos, hasn't deviated outside of it yet. We haven't closed a candle on the 3-day at least outside. And if you go to the daily, it's the same thing. There's no candle closes outside of this channel, except for this little deviation, which is slightly out, but bugger all. You see the resistance here, didn't go above that. So that's really more important. This vertical line, this diagonal line is not as strong. So we have this horizontal, I should say, not vertical. Horizontal support resistance lines are more credible than the downward lines like these ones. But nevertheless, it is a pattern that we can track. And we do see it sort of doing nothing, but we are rejecting from this 61,000 level, which I did mention in the previous Bitcoin video, saying that we could reject from here. We could deviate a little bit like this. So, it could come up a little bit higher to trick people, and then come down, and then ultimately break, then head down back to 51K. Probably sooner than October, I'd say. It'd be pretty soon. I'd say it comes down here pretty soon, breaks, and then comes back up. Okay, I don't know exactly, but by the end of the year at least, I do see 41K, and I've been saying that. I've tweeted it. I've mentioned in the previous video. This level here, you got touch, and it lines up with this trend line, and also this cluster of accumulation for the spot Bitcoin ETF. So I do see it come back down there by the end of the year. Okay, so it's just a matter of time when the recession kicks in. We should see that as a reality. So I don't think risk assets like Bitcoin and the crypto market will do so well in a recession. Gold might hold up pretty well because gold's proven itself over many, many years, decades, centuries. But Bitcoin has been around that long. So it's only a new asset, and it's a risk asset. Okay, it's like a tech stock. It's no different. It trades like that, and you've got to treat it like that for now until it establishes itself like gold. But it's a long, long, long way from that, okay? We're too far away from that now to worry about. We just know it trades like a tech stock. It's high risk. It's volatile swings up and down. And it does big moves and does big moves upside and downside, okay? So you can expect volatility in both directions. And we're not just going to see this and then shoot back up unless they have a soft landing, the Fed, which I don't believe is going to happen. So we did reject here as predicted. We'd say we can go a little bit higher. We had to durably break above this level here, which is 64.5, before going higher, all right? And then break out. Okay, that's left translated cycle theory if you want to see it going bullish by the end of the year. And I could be wrong. Nothing's a certainty, only probabilities. But we are rejecting from this EMA, as you can see here on the daily, all right? It's pretty clear. We can't get above it. And this is it's a pretty simple cluster, as you can see, that I've drawn. And it meets up with this level, here, and we're just catching it now. So pretty, it's pretty visible there in the middle of this range, middle of this parallel channel, and we are rejecting from it, and we're coming down. All right, so I do expect further downside, all right, and then eventually by the end of the year, whenever that is, I don't know, 41K. All right, that's my views. Where I see it going. Okay, so that is that one. So I'll just leave that there. I'll just turn the bull market support band off. And I'll just... All right, cool. Right, now let's look at some alt BTC pairs. As promised, the total 3 minus USDT divided by Bitcoin. Now, my views on this one is I'd have these lines drawn, and we have QE, QT, QE, QT, and we're going to bet to start QE at the end of this year or going next year. We don't know. I have no idea. Probably more so into 2025 when they stimulate after the rate cuts. Because I see this weakness in the economy, but it could be before then. It could be right at the end of the year. So we don't know. That is not a certainty at all. But all I can say is you have to be prepared and wait for this outcome to occur. And when it does occur, and this balance sheet does start to, if it bleeds a bit longer and then starts to tick up, all right, by the end of the year, or if it goes into next year, it goes into next year. We don't know where it's going to start. Have no idea. This balance sheet, right? When it starts to tick up, that is when this green line will be activated. It's called QE, and it's when the balance sheet goes from QT, which is declining, which is QT, to increasing. We saw here, all right, in this where this total 3, which is everything but Bitcoin and ETH divided by Bitcoin. Okay, everything against Bitcoin, excluding ETH, obviously, and Bitcoin. And they did well against Bitcoin because that was the bull year. That was the post-halving year. It tended to outperform. And this was bearish. It went down because of this, okay, because the balance sheet went down. And the Fed was actually pretty flat across here. It doesn't go back that far, but if you draw the balance sheet on its own, it was a pretty flat period, and this was going up. And we see this is the 2017 post-halving year outperformance against Bitcoin or QE. But when they started to roll off the balance sheet, what happened? You can see, and then now we're at QT, and we're just seeing it bleed, and the price is doing the same thing. So it's the Fed, okay? The Fed monetary policy is very, very important, all right? It dictates everything in the crypto markets, all right? Very crucial you understand that, all right? So that is that, and I do see it going down to 0.25, all right? As this is an oscillator at best, that's where I can see it, and it goes, to the top of the range, above roughly goes to 1, makes up 1 of Bitcoin's market cap. All the total 3 makes up 1 of that's Bitcoin, it's percentage of market cap, and that makes up quarter of Bitcoin's market cap at the bottom of these ranges. So here you can see it touched. We had a little bit of a deviation there, went a bit lower, then we came back up to it here, and then are we going to come back down to it here? Have to wait and see. But we have durably broken below it. If you go on the monthly, so I said 1 month before the rate cuts, okay? And if you pull up rate cuts, where are we? Interest rates. Before I talk you about that one, we had this line drawn here, and we had a monthly candle here, okay, below this support line, and then we just capitulated down right after another cut, and then it's basically one cut, a bit of a pause, which was August, nothing happened. September, another cut, and it pretty much bottomed out by then. And it rose up, and then it went down again after these sort of cuts. Eventually, it came back down to this low again. Then we had this big shakeout at the end of that year, all right, which is really quite strange, but that happened. And we haven't had the rate cut yet. As you can see, this pink is waiting for this rate cut to happen. All right, this is 1 month before. When the cut arrives, terrible drawing, but you get the idea. We should see this candle close this month before the cut happens, and then we could see it go down even lower. All right, and then hit our target at 0.25. So that's what I'm seeing. All right, that is how I see it for that chart. So more downside to come. Let's get rid of these drawings. She'll just get it like that. Beautiful. It looks good. All right, others, Bitcoin, which is pretty similar. It's everything outside top 10 though, except for it's inside our top 10 divided by Bitcoin. And I do see it doing the same thing as this period. We had QT, okay? So we had the high, we had the low. All right, made a low here, 67% drop. We had a push up, 65%. A drop down, 62%. So 60s and 60s there, mid-60s roughly. So they predicted that move, and then we shot up. After QE arrived, the Fed started buying assets, and then off to the races, right? QT arrived. Bam, big sell-off. We had a drop, 68%. Quite similar to this one, 67. We had a pump, 69%. We had a pump, 65%. It's very similar. And then I expect a drop of 71%. Slightly more than that one. Okay, in line with the late 60s here, pump drops and pumps, and to line up with this level here as well, okay? It's support. Yeah, there's support there, and support there, and there. So that just lines up with that level, all right? So could happen by the end of the year. That's what I'm predicting it to happen, or it could happen in the next year. But nevertheless, it's going to happen, okay? Eventually is where I see it. 0.08 is my target for that one. ETH, Bitcoin. We have Ethereum versus Bitcoin, okay? And we're having this play out exactly like these two ones, all right? I'll show you exactly why. Let's ignore this for a second. So the patterns are quite similar. I'll just keep it an arrow on, and I'll keep this in drawing mode. So we had a high, okay? We had a level here. We had a drop. We formed a support. We then formed a lower high than that one. We came back down, right, to this level. We traded sideways for a bit. All right. Sideways, and then we went down, all right. I'll get rid of that one. Let's draw it here. All right, so that's what happened there. If you see, the pattern's quite clear. We had the same thing occur here. We had a high. All right. We had a lower height. We had a level here, which was this level here. We came down to it, right, which is this. We went sideways, okay, which is this. And then they dropped. It dropped. All right. Let's just do it like this. Easy to see. As you can see there. So it dropped, right? It dropped after this pattern play. See, it's the exact same pattern. All right, as you can see, it's pretty clear. And then it's happened again here. It's happened again for the third time, right? This is quite unusual, but it is what it is. I'm just taking it as I see it. So high, lower high, level here. You came back down, right, to this level, as I showed you, right? This one here. So came back down to it, sideways. And what's happened? We've broken it to the downside, as predicted. And touch the top. We touched pretty much the top of this box. You can see this wick here. We got really close to it. Okay, but we haven't come down to this trend line yet. So I do see it's coming down the trend line. If I go back to the automatic charts, I can show you that we got close to it here in 2016. Okay, it dropped 53% after this breakdown period. All right, as you can see there, 53%. After this one broke down, we dropped 38%. And we came down to this trend line. All right, we formed it there from this low here in 2015 when it got launched. And we're coming pretty close to it now as it's rising up, and it lines up with this box, which is sort of before it shot up. It's big parabolic level, and it lines up with this trend line pretty well perfectly. By the end of the year, I see it touching it and durably staying inside this box. And that will be it for ETH Bitcoin. That's my target for it. 28% drop. This was 38%. This is 53%. Okay. So it's diminishing. It's not going to drop as much because it's a big, larger asset. And I do see it coming down to that level. Okay. And we'll finish up on Sol ETH and Solana ETH. Which is quite interesting. This is Solana versus Ethereum. Okay. Not versus Bitcoin, but versus Ethereum. And you can see that we have a high here. And right, we come back to it here. We've wicked. We actually shot through it. So I'll show you on a 3-day chart. We actually broke through, and I thought, oh no, this is going to break out and go higher. This is going to be different. This time is different. Okay, your favorite 4 words. And guess what? We got a rejection, a big rejection. All right, and on the weekly, you can see we didn't close above it. The 3-day did, but the weekly didn't. The weekly is more powerful. And we're inside this triangle pattern, and now we're coming back down slightly, okay? So this is the top of this wick to this, and never closed above it, 5,05800. So 5%, 5.8% of Ethereum. One Ethereum is a Solana. And I do see it coming probably back to the 1,500. By the end of the year, I don't know what's going to happen. Could come down here, but I don't know. It's definitely for the bottom. We'll have to see what happens with the other pairs. But I have marked these levels out. Worst case scenario, it comes down to the very lows. But probably the worst case, if I was going to bet on it in the end of the year, or probably going in next year before the big bull run, I'd say it bottoms out at 1,500. Okay, so 1.5% of a Ethereum. My Ethereum is a Solana. And we'll leave it there. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. Just going over total 3 minus USDT divided by Bitcoin. Going over Bitcoin price end of the year, as I do. We're playing out pretty similar to my prediction from last video. I said we'll reject from the $61,000 level, and it has done that. So it's playing out pretty nicely. And just going over ETH Bitcoin, where I see that heading. Others Bitcoin, also where I see that heading. It all depends on monetary policy, by the way. So I'll show you the balance sheet time to time, and that just shows my point. Okay, it's high risk versus low risk, and high risk bleeds to low risk in times that we're in at the moment of quantitative tightening, when the Fed tighten right up and they sell their assets and they raise rates and whatever else to tighten up the economy, and then the low risk beats the high risk. And when the opposite happens, when they buy assets and they start cutting rates and things start becoming happy again, and the economy starts easing, and inflation comes, inflation's down significantly from where it was, and people can afford things again, and then the economy starts to boom, unemployment starts to slow down, and then it eventually ticks back down. But we haven't seen the big uprise of unemployment yet, so that's another thing to watch out for. And there's so much to happen before when recession kicks in, and then we have to see from there how the Fed respond to it and the data. And when it does hit and we get a good correction in markets, I will be on the way telling you when to buy, not financial advice, but a good time to get in and minimizing your risk, essentially lowering your risk, making sure you're not taking too much risk, because that's very, very important, is to buy low, sell high, not buy here where it's like, yeah, maybe it could be a short-term bottom and a bounce. You don't know. Nothing's a certainty, only probability. And then it tricks people, and then it bounces, and it kind of goes boom, and it just crashes hard. And like the pandemic in 2020, like Black Swan event, that could happen. Things unexpectedly occur, and we get crashes. But I don't see this being a Black Swan event. I think it's a predictable recession. I don't know when, but it's definitely coming. Definitely going end of the year, earliest to early next year. So it depends how Fed can hold off on cutting rates. And yeah. And then we looked at Sol ETH, so Solana versus Ethereum, which is quite an odd pair, but I just wanted to show you that one of the top alts versus Ethereum. And you can see it's at the top of the range and struggling to get above it, and starting to reject and come down. So this could be the end of the Sol mania with the meme coins and all that. Which you can see big transition from capital from Solana to Ethereum. All right, so if you enjoyed this video, please smash the like, comment your thoughts below, subscribe to stay updated. Be sure to check out my links below, and I'll catch you next one. Cheers.